Panasonic has been making some waves with its new line of TVs, especially when it comes to how good their processing is. But they're not the only brand on the block with good processing. There's always Sony, and they've been on top of that mountain for so long, it's kind of refreshing to see someone put up a fight to be the new king of the hill. But is it really a contest? Or is there a clear winner? Hi, I'm Abby from RTINGS.com, and I'm here to compare the Panasonic W95A and the Sony BRAVIA 7. We're gonna see if Panasonic is truly a worthy competitor, or if the king is gonna sit on top of that mountain for a little while longer. Let's jump right into the thick of it. Which TV has the best contrast? Though they're close in performance, the Sony edges out the Panasonic here. The Panasonic is still outstanding, displaying deep blacks that mostly stay deep when brighter highlights are present, but the Sony's blacks get deeper. So advantage, Sony. When it comes to local dimming performance, Sony's processing has the edge over Panasonic's. Again, not that the Panasonic is bad or anything, but there's definitely less blooming around bright highlights than on the Sony BRAVIA 7. And zone transitions are also a bit less noticeable. This could be a case of just comparing a TV with 480 zones to one with 192 zones, but the end result is another win for the Sony. The Sony is noticeably brighter in HDR. The Panasonic is still bright enough for most content, but side by side, the difference is easy to spot. While the BRAVIA 7 is a bit dimmer in game mode, and inversely, the W95A is a bit brighter, the Sony TV still ends up being much brighter overall when gaming due to its initial brightness advantage. Not only is the BRAVIA 7 brighter, but it's also much more accurate in HDR. While the Sony TV follows the curve almost perfectly, the Panasonic is a bit too bright across the entire curve, except when it comes to dark shadows, which are too dark. It's still great though, and almost anyone would find it to be beyond satisfactory. But it's another clear win for the Sony. What about SDR brightness? Well, the Sony is brighter here too. They're both more than bright enough, but the Sony is about 200 nits brighter. Truth be told, you probably won't be using either of these TVs at max brightness and SDR anyway. Unfortunately, the Panasonic isn't only dimmer in SDR, but it's also way less accurate. This is one area where purists will not be satisfied about how the Panasonic looks out of the box, as there's way too much red in all shades of gray, giving the TV a noticeable reddish tint. There are also some color mapping issues with desaturated colors. The Sony isn't perfect here by any means, but it's significantly better, as its biggest issue is that its gamma is a bit too dark across the entire range. All colors are very slightly underrepresented in all shades of gray, but otherwise, it's pretty much spot on. It hasn't exactly been glorious for the Panasonic W95A thus far, and it really stumbles when it comes to sheer image quality, at least when compared to the Sony BRAVIA 7. But now, we're talking about processing. How does the W95A fare here? When it comes to its upscaling performance, specifically, it fares much better, as the W95A is a standout on that front. Details on low-resolution content are as clear as they can be, and frankly, this is about as good as 480p or 720p content can look. Except if you have a Sony BRAVIA 7, that is, as the Sony matches the Panasonic here. Yes, sadly, even though upscaling is Panasonic's strongest category this year, it doesn't really outpace Sony's upscaling. It just matches it. And when it comes to other aspects of processing, the Sony still has the edge. For example, banding. The Panasonic is good here, but there's noticeable banding in all shades of gray. On the Sony, there's some noticeable banding on brighter greens, but that's it. And if you like to watch a ton of streaming content, the Sony definitely has the advantage, as it clears up noticeably more macro blocking from compressed feeds than the Panasonic does. So, overall, the Sony BRAVIA 7 still has the edge when it comes to processing. Ouch. The W95A would have the edge for gaming if it weren't for a very strange quirk. You can't have both local dimming and VRR enabled at the same time. You have to choose between worse contrast or screen tearing while gaming. At this price point, this is a pretty big disappointment, especially since the Panasonic has lower input lag, faster response times, and higher 144Hz refresh rate support on its two HDMI 2.1 ports. Unfortunately, this one or the other choice means you're leaving way too much image quality on the table for what it offers gaming-wise. What else? Well, we didn't talk about colors, but that's because both TVs perform about the same. Panasonic has a barely wider color gamut, but in turn, the Sony has better color volume by a hair. The Sony also has better reflection handling, but again, by a hair, and not really worth emphasizing. Our Bravia has better gray uniformity than our W95A, but uniformity is really panel dependent, so your mileage may vary on that one. Finally, the W95A also has one other advantage. It supports both Dolby Vision and HDR10+, which is a nice touch. The Sony, for its part, supports only Dolby Vision. That would make the Panasonic a home theater purist's dream TV if it weren't for its lack of DTS audio pass-through. Now, we imagine that many home theater fans use receiver, but for those of you who don't, it's something to consider. So, which one should you get? Well, despite Panasonic's best efforts, the Sony is the winner here. It offers noticeably better image quality on every possible metric. And while it doesn't quite perform as well when gaming, it's very close. And of course, you can have VRR enabled alongside local dimming without any issues. Unless Panasonic dramatically drops the price on the W95A or fixes its VRR and local dimming issue, it's hard to recommend over the Sony. A better alternative to the Bravia 7 is last year's Sony X93L, which is still widely available from many retailers. Although the Bravia generally offers better image quality due to its better contrast, higher HDR and SDR peak brightness, and wider color gamut, the X93L has a wider viewing angle and far better reflection handling. So much so that it easily offsets the Bravia 7's SDR brightness advantage. The X93L is also the better TV for gaming due to its noticeably faster response time. So for gamers playing in brighter rooms, it could be worth going for the older X93L over the newer Bravia 7. And of course, both TVs are better than the Panasonic W95A. Well, that's all we've got for our comparison of the Panasonic W95A and the Sony Bravia 7. You can also check out our video reviews of the Panasonic OLEDs if you want to know more about them, or watch our comparison of the Panasonic Z95A and the LG G4 for some high-end OLED goodness. Or you can head over to our website to see our full test results and compare all these TVs side by side by side by side by side. You can find the links for all that good stuff in the description below. Until next time, I'm Abby from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs.